I've gone ahead and completed all of the different connections between the wall switches and the actual light fixtures. Now I want to view this inside the title block. So I'm going to go to my title block here. I've got several here. This one was designed specifically with our symbols. And the first thing I need to do is create a viewport later if I don't have one. But if I do, I want to make that current. And a viewport will be opened up here so that we can see the model through that viewport. So I'll select View, Viewports. I just want a single viewport, so one viewport. And I'll go from that corner to this corner. And it reveals the model. Now, you may look at that and say, there's a whole bunch of stuff missing. Well, sometimes, depending on how the default settings are, new viewports or new layers that are created are not visible in new viewports. Simply said that, we can correct this very easily. All you need to do is double click inside of this, and in the layers menu, you'll notice you've got this square shaped symbol, freeze or thaws layers within viewports. So I'm going to turn on, there's my electrical layer, the doors I have here. I have some cabinetry. Do I have any appliances? No, but I'm just going to leave it on because I don't need it. Floors, hatching. For this demonstration, let's put them all on. And you'll see why later on I'm going to have you turn some of them off, because you'll see how we can easily turn on and off layers within viewports without having them universally turned off through the entire project. Okay, so I've got all the layers on. I'll click off the layer menu. Now I want this at the right scale. So down at the bottom right here, we've decided that this is a 1/2 inch equals 1 foot scale. So I'll click on that. There we go. And then using my wheel, I'm just pushing into it. I'm panning the image so it's more or less centered within this diagram. And I think this is pretty good. Now, I notice one error. I can't see this line work outside this edge. Okay, let's adjust that. I want to get a closer zoom in, but if I zoom in on here, it'll actually affect the viewport zoom. So I'm going to double click outside the viewport. So I'm in paper space now. And again, you can tell that because we have this symbol here that says that we're in paper space. Now I'm going to get closer to this and double click inside. By double clicking inside, I can now affect this line, and I can now click on that line and try to move it over. I'm going to have to pan it just because I can't grab that node. There we go. And now I can pan it back if I need to. That's perfect. Okay, double click outside. Now your presentation indicates that it's supposed to have a dash line through all these. No problem. Let's double click inside, click on a line, and change the line type. Now, one thing about line types is that not all of them are loaded. What do I mean by that? AutoCAD has a whole bunch of different lines, but it doesn't load all of them at once. It only loads the ones you need. So in here in this menu, we're going to click on Other, and this is the only thing that's loaded for this drawing. We need to load other ones. So in here, I'm going to click on Load, and these are all the different types of line types that we can have for this project. And they exist outside of the project area itself only because they take up extra memory. And so we're going to pick a hidden line there. And let's go in here. I've got hidden line. There's 3 different types of hidden lines. One's a regular line. The other one is twice as dense. The units are shorter and the gaps are smaller. And the other one's twice as big. So I'm going to just go with hidden. There it is. Select OK. It's now loaded. Great. I can click on that, select OK. And now I have the option of clicking on a line and loading that line type. And there we have now our hidden line type. Again, I'm going to go through all these different lines. And I will select hidden. So I'm overriding the layer setting, which is for electrical. It's a non-hidden, it's a continuous line. But all the items in here that I've created as blocks, we created with continuous line types. And now the electrical circuitry we're showing here as hidden line types. So this is basically completed. Let's double click on side. So what are we missing here? We're missing the hatch. Okay. Now, I specifically did a different order for a number of different reasons. Let's go back into model space. Hatching takes up quite often the most amount of memory. And as such, we always want to hatch at the end of the drawing. We don't want to hatch at the beginning of a drawing. Also, we've got other items that are going to interfere with that hatching. Let me just try to click on that Model tab. When we hatch, it looks at defined areas. Now, we've got a problem in this diagram because now that we've created this line work, the defined areas are smaller. So anything enclosed is a defined area. Let me give you an example here. You don't have to do this right now. I'm going to switch layers here back to hatch layer, and I'm going to click on the hatch icon, and we're going to use the ANSI 31. We're going to change the scale later on. Notice what it's doing. It's dividing up the areas of calculation because I have too much information there that's interfering with it, and it thinks it's only going to hash an enclosed space. So what we need to do is this. I'm going to press escape. The electrical layer I'm temporarily turning off. Now, it's a universal turn off because I'm turning this layer off in every single diagram. I have a couple of items that were drawn in a different layer. So here now when I hatch, I'm going to click on hatch, and notice it's now picked up the entire wall segment. Great. And if I can, I'm going to complete all my hatching here and press escape, and now I can set the scale. So I'm going to click on that hatch, and this is how dense that scale is. Right now it's set to 1. So what's a good number to begin with? In fact, a good number to begin with is the drawing scale, in this case 1 to 24. So we're going to type in 24 and press enter, and that's the appropriate hatch scale for this diagram. Perfect. Press escape. Now I can turn that electrical layer back on, and that made hatching a lot easier than working through each of the circuits as they interfere with the hatch confined area. And now when I go into that electrical symbol tab, my hatch appears. Remember, I turned it on earlier and my hatch appears. Great. Now sometimes what will happen is hatch will interfere with the line work, and this is again why we try to do this at the end. We want to send the hatch behind the line work. What do I mean by that? If I actually print this off, I may get these little gray dots right along that black line because it's actually on top of the black line. I'm going to double click inside. I'm going to click on the hatch, right click on the hatch, draw order, and send to back. Now, it may not be visible on your screen here, but what's actually happened is that hatch is now behind the line work, and you won't get little gray dots along the black line, and that's what will make the final product stand out and look correct. Okay, so there's still a couple of items that still need to be done in order to complete this project. We're going to turn the viewport layer off because we don't need to see that outer blue edge. And when we turn that viewport layer off, all it does is it removes the edge, but the actual viewport itself is still available, or the image that's inside the viewport is still available. We have to label the different rooms that are in here, so I will copy just this legend size. It seems to be a good size for the information that I need here. There we go. Double click it, and I will call this master bathroom. Okay, now right now the setup is left justification. It looks like on the example they wanted center justified, so I'll just click on center justification at the top of this menu here. And because this is so wide, I'm just going to make it a bit smaller, a bit more manageable, and then I can move that into position. Now it's trying to snap everywhere, so shift right mouse key, select none, or I can turn off that snap until I'm completed all the different room designations. There we go. We've got in here, it looks like also the shower, vestibule, and water closet. Alright, I'm going to take this information and just paste it in different locations here. This just has 2 letters on it, so again, select none. Where will it fit nicely in here without interfering with stuff? And this is the part of the problem, is the fact that now we have so much there that it's easily interfered with. There we go. And then retype the information so that I'm just editing it This I find is a lot easier to copy paste and edit than it is to try to actually redo the text command each and every time. And now I can move that. I think the word vestibule snapped to a different location, or it doesn't look like it accepted its location. I may have clicked on a location and it went right off my screen. Okay, let's change this to vestibule. Let's see, does that fit pretty well? Well, I'm using a darker font, so it kind of overrides everything that's there. What my main concern is that none of the information interferes with the line work. I'm going to move this over just a bit here. There we go. And I'm not interfering with the electrical line work. So, last thing that's left is the title bubble that's down at the bottom with the scale, and then this is a finished drawing. You can see there's where one of my words had snapped to accidentally. It picked up on an endpoint and placed it out there.